Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today, well, maybe you're not welcome back, maybe you're somebody new here. If so, just welcome to the channel. And today we have a topic that's sure not to get me burned alive, burned to the stake. That is Deidara versus Sasori. They talked about Deidara versus Sasori, and it seems like the community could never get into like one unanimous opinion on this. I feel like there's a lot of things in Naruto that people have an opinion of, and then as time goes on, they agree on another thing. This has never been agreed upon ever since the series ended, ever since both these characters ended up dying. Since then, there's nothing conclusive about this. Which is why today, I not only am willing to talk about it, but I'm going to put down my foot and say this will be the decisive conversation on Deidara versus Sasori. We're going to go over everything. AP, durability, speed, hacks, their personalities, how that works. Now, how are we going to start this off? We're actually going to start this off with the validity of a certain statement. So, before we can even get on to this debate, we need to determine how accurate, true, and lasting is the statement of Deidara saying Sasori is stronger than him. Because if this statement makes sense, if this statement, can't be really contradicted or questioned, then there's no point in this video. Then we would just say Sasori could win. So we first have to determine that. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So let's get into it. Would Deidara say this? Is it in character for him to admit that someone is stronger than him and not mean it or not be sure? Well, while no, it's not in character for Deidara to do so, Deidara would only admit such a thing if it was true. I do think there is a second factor that's being played into here, and that is because there is a strategical reason as to why he states this. So it's a bit interesting and a bit situational. So if you want to bring this up, you technically can. It's just not as clear as it seems. The next thing I want to address is this weird argument that Deidara was capable of one-shotting the Three Tails. Some people make the claim that it is possible that Deidara one-shotted the Three Tails, and not only that he one-shotted it, he one-shotted it with a single regular bomb. This is they get this evidence off of a guide. At the end of the day, really, it doesn't state this at all. You can play semantics with the wording and all that, but it's not really stated clearly. I'm pretty sure they would have stated it clearly if that's what they wanted to convey. But more importantly, it's not even supported narratively. The tailed beasts are these major weapons for the villages. If one of the Akatsuki, let alone the lower members of the Akatsuki, are capable of one-shotting these tailed beasts, why the fuck would anyone want these so bad? The tailed beasts have evidence of scaling way higher than that. I mean, for one, I'm not saying Deidara cannot defeat the Three Tails 1v1. That's a conversation for another time. But to say he negs the Three Tails is ridiculous. We have tailed beasts, in the case of the Eight Tails, who was able to fight the Third Raikage. And then we have the fact that the One Tails scale similar to Gamabunta. Gamabunta is one of the great sage Sanin where, it fought Shukaku. It fought the Nine Tails and lived. It got hit by an almighty push by pain and lived. And this was the One Tails. Logically, if we're going to go by the logic that more tails equals more power, the Three Tails would scale above Shukaku. And so I hate to say it, but Deidara doesn't really scale at all to the Third Raikage or Pain, so to say he can one-shot Gamabunta is just pretty ignorant. Now, I'm going to preface this early because I know the comments are going to be like, oh, but it's not canon. Shut up. I know. Whether it's canon, not canon, whether it was from the Storm video game, I don't exactly remember where it came from, but if you do want to take this other stuff into consideration, then the Three Tails already kind of forced Itachi to back up, and this was him in his chakra mode, not even full-tailed beast. So if you do want to take that for what it's worth, that's more evidence that the Three Tails is actually a monster. Keep in mind, the Three Tails is also wrapped around the history of Obito, Kakashi, Rin. Something so important being that fucking ass just doesn't make any sense. So we're just going to drop that point. So now that we got those two big statements out of the way, we can finally jump into the things that make sense and everybody's feats involved. we're actually going to go ahead and shift the gears onto Gaara, as I think Gaara is actually really important in scaling these two. In the beginning of Shippuden, it says that Sasori defeated 3rd Kazekage. Keep in mind, this is supposedly the strongest of the Kazekage. And keep in mind, Sasori also did this without the 3rd Kazekage puppet of his own, so meaning he would have probably done it 1v1 or using the 1,000 puppets. 100 puppets. You knew what I meant. It means Sasori beat him without something crucial in his arsenal. The problem with this is the fact that we never actually see the fight. So it's very much possible he could have been ambushed, poisoned, or whatever. We don't know how it went down. So it's really hard to kind of decipher how this fight went down. It's really hard to pinpoint how much this actually helped Sasori's favor because, again, we don't know what condition the 3rd Kazekage was in. We didn't know how the fight went. You know, it could have been a Hail Mary win for Sasori. We don't know how the fight went. So that's why it's a bit difficult to even give Sasori any of this. Then we have the fight between Deidara and Gaara, which is also pretty confusing because, well, it's not very clear who is stronger between the two. I'm going to get to why. While Deidara does win the fight, there are two factors that kind of throw everything out for a loop. Gaara is both amped and has a crux during this fight. For one, he needs to protect the Sand Village, so anything that Deidara does towards the Sand Village, he has to use an immense amount of chakra to protect said village. However, he's also in his village, so he has this ridiculous amount of sand in his disposal that he can use at all times without even using the sand in his gourd. So it's very difficult because the way Deidara wins requires Gaara to be distracted by protecting the village. I would still give this to Deidara, but it's another case of like, yeah, there's also an asterisk to the fight between Deidara and Gaara. Basically, for simplicity's sake, we're going to say Gaara neither has an advantage or disadvantage. We'll try to cancel it out, so we kind of have to figure out how strong Gaara is in the beginning of Shippuden. We're not going to use any feats from the 5 Kage Summit or the War Arc, obviously, because the argument can be made that he just got stronger. Now, as far as the beginning of Shippuden goes, Gaara has more than likely surpassed his child self, obviously. When he was a kid, he was able to go toe-to-toe with Kimimaro. He was pretty relative to him. You could say Kimimaro is going to win, obviously, at the end, if not for his disease, but they're about relative. Keep in mind, Kimimaro is a guy who pummeled the Salen 4, who are this Chunin to low Jonin level. They're pretty strong, but Kimimaro bodied all 4 of them, and Gaara was stronger than him. More importantly, Kimimaro was actually able to body Naruto, enraged and wanting to get Sasuke back. If we look at the Tailed Beast amps as linear, you know how, as the series goes on, his Tailed Beast amps get better and better. It's pretty consistent, you know, especially with Shippuden, it's a lot more apparent, you know, he starts at, I forgot what it was they used against Deidara, but then he goes into 4 tails with Orochimaru, he moves on to higher tails with Pain, and so on and so forth. He seems to do that linearly. In part 1, it's a bit not as clear, but he does seem to fight stronger and stronger opponents that would allow him to need to use more of the 9 Tails chakra, and especially in this situation where he's trying to get Sasuke back. This is probably the most important situation. I'm not surprised. This Naruto, who is more than likely stronger than the Naruto that fought Gaara during the Chunin exams, couldn't touch a base Kimimaro. Obviously, this means that Gaara has gotten way stronger, as before Naruto was able to pummel an enraged Gaara. So this would mean that Gaara's base form is more than likely around the enraged Gaara state. The next thing we need to talk about is Deidara, how he was fast enough to dodge a lot of Gaara's attacks. Now, I'm kind of going to reach the part that a lot of people probably aren't going to like. That's kind of sad, but what can you say? We're going to talk about the fight between Deidara and Sasuke because I think this is very important. Deidara was doing more than well against Sasuke, speed-wise, being able to react to a blitz attempt by him, yet a weaker Sasuke was able to blitz Naruto, Sakura, Sai, and Yamato all at the same time. The obvious one that poses a problem here is Sasuke blitzing Sakura, and I want to bring this back to the Sasori point where a lot of people bring up that, oh, but Sakura is specifically trained to dodge Sasori's attacks. That's great and all, but if you're not fast enough it's irrelevant. It's kind of like Lee and Sasuke, where Sasuke could perceive Lee's movements, but he couldn't do shit about it. So even if Sakura was a master at dodging, it doesn't matter. I could be the best. I could dodge the greatest swordsman in the world. Doesn't mean I'm going to dodge a bullet. So I don't really understand that point. That would still mean Sakura's speed is somewhat relative to Sasori's sand. And before anyone brings up that she was manipulated by Chiyo, that did happen for a portion of the fight. For the other portion, Sakura was doing pretty good on her own. Now you need to think of this narratively. Sasuke, pre-absorbing Orochimaru, was able to blitz all of Team 7 and make them look like jokes. The fact that Sakura, we're just talking speed here, I don't care about strength, I don't care about their willpower, whatever. Sasuke, speed-wise, is able to blitz all 4 of them, no problem, and then Sakura, by herself, was able to react to Sasori's attacks. Now, I know people bring up the mentally amped stuff. The mentally amped stuff is interesting. First of all, I don't think we're going to sit here and say that Sakura being mentally amped over Sasuke is as much of a boost as Sasuke absorbing Orochimaru. Right? Speed-wise, if I have seen no world where Sakura being emotionally amped would have been able to defeat Sasuke and bring him back to the village. Not fucking happening. Let's be real here. Now again, I want to clarify. I'm not saying Sakura would beat Sasori in a 1v1. She had Chiyo's help. I'm talking about speed-wise. Sakura could still react to Sasori's movements. Now, I haven't even really gotten to his fight with Inoki, which is also very impressive. He's able to fly alongside Inoki, be able to kind of swap hands with him. Inoki's not like Raikage speed, but he's pretty decently fast. Certainly faster than fucking Sai, Yamato, and beginning Naruto. The next thing I want to get into is the microscopic bombs. Do they work? Do they not? I would say no. I know some people have tried to argue that because Sasori has a heart, it requires oxygen. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's a little more nuanced or different than just a regular heart. So I would guess not. Of course, we have no way of really proving this, but I'm going to lean towards no. He's a fucking puppet. I don't think he'd need oxygen. Now we got the poison. Does the poison work? Deidara is a madman. If he poisons his arms, Deidara might just blow his fucking arm up. And if you think that's ridiculous, that's exactly what he did in the Gaara fight. He said, "Fuck my arm." It's kind of a who hits who first situation, because I do think that Deidara's clay bombs would do massive damage to Sasori, while Sasori can just poison him and end the fight. If he hits him in his body or his leg or his head, he's kind of fucked. It kind of depends where they're fighting, If they're fighting in an open field, Deidara is just going to fly around the puppets. I know people bring up the puppets and the black sand. None of that is hitting Deidara. It's too fucking slow. You think these goober puppets are going to do anything? Even if these goober puppets do hit Sasori, who the fuck cares? He got, a minor cut, probably. I mean, just as far as intelligence goes, Sasori seems to be the more capable fighter. He seems to have more of an eye for combat. His fight with Gaara and his fight with Sasuke showed that tremendously. I'm gonna be real. Me personally, I don't think this is a good matchup for Sasori. Now, if you do want to bring up the Kazekage point, obviously him beating the third Kazekage, that is the only piece of evidence, personally, for me, that would put Sasori over him via direct scaling. However, you need to also take this into consideration. We don't know how that fight went. We don't know what abilities they have. We don't know how that all went down, because obviously in Naruto, it's not just like Dragon Ball where someone with a higher power level beats the other person. If Sasori beat the third Kazekage, that would simply mean that Sasori just has a better toolkit to handle the third Kazekage. That's all it means. It doesn't necessarily mean that he can beat guys the third Kazekage can beat. It's just the way it works in Naruto. So my pick is Deidara, and if worst came to worst, Deidara would just blow himself up with Sasori. So at best, you get in a draw. There's nothing you can do there. So that is Deidara versus Sasori. I'm sure this video will get no hate and no one will be upset that Sasori lost. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. I'm gonna get the hell out of here. Do the usual, like, subscribe, follow my social media platforms. It'd be very much appreciated. And let me know what you guys want to see next. Naruto videos, anime videos, fighting game videos, or other video game characters. Don't even gotta be fighting game characters. Just let me know down below. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.